Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia, and welcome, Conscious Warriors, to our next edition of CPtsd Live, where we're breaking the cycle of complex PTSD, which, as we know, has been going on for generations. It's wonderful to have you here this morning. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Welcome to our global family where we all come and do life together because we understand what the walk is like for each of us, what the journey is. And we know that when we do life together, it's a very healing, a very safe space. And we actually get to work things through together and it's navigate life together. And it's a very special place. If you're here, remember to hit like or subscribe to help all the people who are our silent majority. As we know, with mental health challenges, it's not something that is spoken about, even amongst family members, and it's still, we're right at the forefront of all of this information. And we need to be willing to step out of our comfort zone and share with so many people who are sitting at home as well, wondering, what's my one next step? How do I do this? What can I do to break the cycle of what's been happening with me and for me for possibly decades? And we just have not had this information. And that's why I love what I do, because I get to bring you information that helps you break the cycle. And with complex PTSD, one of the most important things we do is take this information and build it into our day-to-day life, because science will tell you it is different for everybody, and it makes sense because we've all walked different pathways in this life, had different families, different backgrounds, and whilst we can say there are similarities, absolutely, we all take on what happens for us differently as well. Good morning, Laura. So this morning I want to be able to share with you some information about invalidation and also self-invalidation. Good morning, Diana, and I want to be able to share with you what it is, why it's important for us to recognize when it's happening for us, and also how we can turn it around. Now, I think I got the link for you, but let's just double check. So what I did was last night, when I put the new ebook together for you, so that you can build this information into your life consciously, I put it into the free Complex PTSD resource library. So one, you can follow along this morning, but two, also so that you can take a look at it and begin to implement it into your day-to-day life. Now, the beauty about this work is it doesn't take a lot of time just to download the ebook, have a look, go, yep, I understand, and go, right, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on myself, all right? Even if it's when you jump into bed. And when I was a mum of young ones, I did this religiously, so to speak, every night, all right? I get into bed and I journal. I have, excuse me, Panda, I just need my book. Can I have my book? So what I did was I always had these hardcover. Obviously, they weren't all nice and bright, but hardcover A4 books, because I write a lot. And every night when I got into bed, we're talking when my kids were really young, I would write what happened for me that day, how I felt, what I reflected on, what I'd like to have happen differently. And it was a place where I was okay to pour it out. So if you download the ebook, this is a good idea. Download the ebook worksheets that go with it, so you don't have to download all the information, just the worksheets. And you had one of these, a hardcover book of some nature that you can lean on while you sit in bed, and give yourself 5 minutes just to reflect on the day on the worksheets. You will find that you build this conscious awareness into your day-to-day life every day, and all of a sudden it's like, as Oprah says, the aha moments go, oh my goodness, now I can see what I couldn't see before. And this is why we have to be willing to do this work and develop a real consciousness around it, because so much happened in our younger life, which we're all aware of, and I won't go into today, but it drives so much internally that's unconscious and subconscious that we have to be willing to do this work internally. Good morning, Lisa. So, invalidation, what is it? Invalidation is when our thoughts and feelings are rejected, ignored, or judged. So, you're having a conversation with somebody and you know that they've just walked straight over the top of you. They haven't heard a word what you've said, and that's exactly what's happened. Invalidation is emotionally upsetting for anyone. So not anyone that this happens to will be upset. And this is important to note too for when we're raising our kids, when we're having the conversation with family. It's really important that it happens for us so that we're not invalidated in those conversations and the other person isn't invalidated. We have to learn these skills too. And I think that's what can be hard for all of us is we're the first generation. So not only are we having to learn and apply all of this stuff, but then we're also in the position where we have to teach the people around us how to go about life in a healthier manner. But the good thing is this, it helps you work out those who will walk with you through life and who you will walk through life with, and those who will just probably fall by the way. Okay, and that's life. We know now because we can connect globally that we don't have to hang on. Life will keep changing and moving and people come and go. Okay. And the good thing is that as you build this into your life, if you're a parent or caregiver or anyone that has anything to do with children, you are able to teach this to children as well. You know, that you matter and they matter and what's happening at a heart level does matter. It may not drive everything in our life, but it does matter. We can't shove it down and ignore it. Okay, so we experienced it as part of childhood developmental trauma, as we've already grown up without a complete sense of self and possibly living in fight, flight, freeze or fawn mode. So more often than not. And it's only when we do our internal work that we begin to recognise how much that we're triggered, and not just into anxiety, but how much our whole system keeps going into alert mode. Like, you know, am I going to have to fight? Am I going to have to, you know, do I have to shut down? And unfortunately for me, mine is hyper-arousal, well, at fawn mode where I shut down. So I've got to build always this increasing awareness of what's happening. Now, with invalidation, I have to be aware if it causes me stress. Now, the other person may not have meant that, and I've got to be willing to have that conversation. And Nick and I have these conversations, and I have to be willing to say this is how I felt, and I have to also be willing to accept that if it's felt one way to me, it may not have been how he meant it. So forgiveness is part of, for both of us, is that we have these conversations and know that we didn't mean it particular ways. And we've got to take that on board, because the last thing you want to do is keep holding grudges. Okay? I did a session on that, I think last week. Don't hold grudges. It causes you more pain than anything in this world. All right? You're on this cycle that's just send you loopy, okay? And push everyone out of your life. So we've all been there when others listen to our story and we watch their facial expressions, their lack of interest or understanding, and their behaviours afterwards have all said, I don't believe you, get a grip, and numerous other ways of invalidating our experience. Some of the other things are like, why can't you just get over it? All right. And I know just about everybody's been told that, why can't you just get over it? Or why don't you just go and see a specialist? You know, don't burden me with it. And it's not, we don't want to burden anyone. We just need to be able to say, look, this is what I'm experiencing today. Oh, and one that I was told, I had two experiences in one day I'd been massively triggered before church, and then I walk in and one of these guys, he was just so sweet, went and got me tissues, and I just said, I can't help this emotional reaction because it's coming from the neurobiological level, and I'm not really upset, but this is what's happening, and it's a physical level. And then another person comes along and says, you just need to seek God more and seek him, for your first. And I'm just sitting there going, right then, okay, that's your issue in life, that's not mine. And I'm just like, you cannot do this to people. You cannot continually go around and say all these horrible things to people. It's invalidating. And where anybody's relationship with God is, no matter what faith, no matter what religion, anything, it's none of anybody else's business. Anyhow, we won't go down that rant, because I feel really strongly about that we should all be able to get along and there should be no judgment, all right, because it's invalidation. Invalidation in part is why it's so hard to speak about our mental health. These conversations haven't been happening for generations, and so people just react. They don't think about it and respond. They just react out of their own space, out of their own fear about, they could be feeling that they don't know what to say. And instead of saying, look, I'm really sorry, I don't know what to say, or can you tell me what you need, they just react and off they go. And then it just leaves us feeling like we're in a worse place. But then it's our job to go, hey, I need to stop and go, that's their stuff. I've still got to be a warrior and keep moving forward. Just one next step. Sorry, my hay fever is driving me nuts this morning. Our lawn got mowed yesterday, so it's all stirred up. So we can't continue to be afraid about speaking up about our mental health. It's not something that we go and tell everybody, but we still can't live with any form of fear because it shuts us down too much. Now, self-invalidation is where we begin to deny what happened to us with our own internal dialogue. So think about automatic thoughts as well. Actually, I need to do another video on that for you as well. Update. Automatic thoughts, they are real and they happen, and we've got to grab hold of them. And we don't, because when we were growing up, it's like having the inner critic on full-blown mode, okay? If we didn't say these things to ourselves, so we believe, it was part of keeping us safe, okay? Emotionally safe. So it's only when I build up my emotional core and my emotional strength, then I'm going to stop the self-invalidation. I'm going to stop the perfectionism. I'm going to stop saying it has to be this way. All right? I'm going to stop subconsciously trying to control everyone and everything. And I don't mean be controlling, is we try and keep everything in a row, all right, moving in one row, because when our prefrontal cortex is offline, we're triggered, it's hard to automatically see order in life, okay? So, sorry, I just lost my place. And it's not until we do our internal work that we begin to experience that there are multiple layers that we need to peel back. And even for me this morning, I was thinking about a couple of things and I went, oh my goodness, of course, why wouldn't I ask anyone for help? Or, so think about what happened in your family around finances. So if in your family finance was never spoken about, okay, and I want you to be aware that this is cultural. So in Australia and Britain, money's not something that's discussed openly, but in America it is. So your information that passed down from family will be different. So my family, you wouldn't ask for money. It just wasn't the done thing. Because if you did, it was like, 50 questions and blah, blah, blah. And then I realised, well, that impacts our whole faith walk as well. Anyhow, I'm getting off track. But do you see what I mean? It's this whole internal understanding of there's something bigger going on here. And until I can understand the message, the way, the information that I was given as a child, then I can't change things up internally for me. Hang on a sec. Laura said, that is so lovely and encouraging that you're having open communication with your kids. It's helping me to open up to my own and have this connection. I am feeling so alive with these talks. Things are coming together and now making sense for me living with a life of trauma. That's fantastic, Laura. And I want to encourage you to have these chats. And look, sometimes they get messy. Trust me, because I've never been able to have these chats with other adults. So when I started having them with my adult kids, it was like, I think the first time after Nick and I had a chat, I burst into tears and said, I've never told another male that in my life, like never had that level of communication with a male in my life. And I suppose it was happy tears, but it was still shock that that had never happened for me as well. So it's worth it. The mess is worth it all the way. Okay, so we've got to be conscious that we can't peel back the layers until we begin to own what is our thoughts, or what are our thoughts, what are our emotions, and for us today, here now. So it's not about going back to the past. Trust me, it is not about going back to the past. You don't have to spend hours in talk therapy going back to the past. As our goal is to break the cycle. So to break the cycle, we have to be willing to build our emotional strength by recognizing what's keeping us from our emotional strength. Okay, it's very, very different with complex PTSD. So the first thing we want to use to break the cycle is noticing when we say sorry to other people, how are we feeling and what are we believing about ourselves? Now, the reason why I picked when we apologise is because we all do it profusely. We do, and I'm so aware that I used to do it, and it takes time to break the habit. But we can do it when we understand what's driving it. So the worksheets that are in there, and if you've got kids old enough to do self-reflection, do it with your kids 5 minutes every night. Create a good habit of self-reflection, and you will see then that everybody in the family has a different thing driving them, and it will open up the conversations. So on the worksheet, there's 3 spaces to fill in with questions to fill in, and you don't have to go into it deeply. It's just writing about what's happened today for you internally so that you can reflect, bring it into your conscious reality, and you're going to be able to change up your reality. Now, all this information is on the sheets, and there's more information on the sheets as well. These are the key phrases that I want you to start building into your life. It's okay to feel this way. My feelings are valid, and I'm proud of myself. Okay? And we're allowed to be proud of the mess too, because the mess eventually becomes a message for all of us. Okay? It's okay if I cry, as I'm learning it's safe to be emotionally strong. Okay? I'm making progress. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. I gave it my best effort, and progress is better than perfection any day. All right, so remember, our thoughts can be inflexible, and we want to turn. That's a combination of turn and change. Turn our thoughts around to, it's safe for me to let go of control. Okay, I'm safe and I'm worthy, okay, to do this whole process. And I've got a list of others as well that you can adopt and adapt them to what suits you in your day-to-day life, okay? And above and beyond everything else, I want you to remember that you are loved more than anything else in this world, and you are worthy, and when you do this work, you will feel that too. Have a gorgeous day and a gorgeous evening wherever you are in the world. I love you heaps, and thanks for turning up this morning, and I will see you again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.